You're a specialist? If I would ask you, Christian, I want that DCF automatic model. How long would it take you to generate that? What will be the evolution in the use of LLMs?
I always say that it's not just about writing the best prompt. It's a little bit bigger than that. So you need to understand, yes, how to write a good prompt in an LLM model, but at the same time, you need to also understand, let's say, how to get this Python code.
How do you see that evolution of the AIs and quantum computing? What will be the next step there?
Welcome to Multibagger Nuggets, where we talk about investing in stocks. Your host, Chris Hendricks, from Multibagger Nuggets, also known as From Growth to Value, invites you to join this podcast at multibaggernuggets.com, where you get much more content, both free and paid. Chris talks with Christian Martinez, who is an expert in applying AI to finance. Kris and Chris talk about the implications of AI on investing, how AI can be used by traders, how not using AI could be an advantage for long-term investors, quantum computing, and much more. Christian shows you tomorrow's investing reality today. Here's Multibagger Nuggets, where you hear about tomorrow's winners today.
All right, Christian, you're an AI specialist. I can say that. And I'm in stocks. So how about the combination? What do you see in AI that will be useful for stocks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I feel artificial intelligence can really augment investors in two different ways. One, it can help people automate different things and be able to enhance the way they do investing. And then second one, it can also add very valuable data to your everyday investing trades.
Okay, and could you go a bit deeper into the two? So maybe start with the first one, the same order?
Yeah, definitely. So in the automation part, one of the main tools that I always try to teach people is to learn Python programming. So with Python programming, as a finance professional or as an investor, you can be able to write some code and then automate things that will take you before like 2 hours to do manually. So if you're doing things right now in Excel, for example, for financial analysis, for investing, then I'll really recommend people to go to Python instead. And then whatever they need to do like for 1 hour, 2 hours, Python can do it in seconds.
Yeah. So for example, thinking about a discounted cash flow model or something like that?
Yeah, that's a very good example. So like a DCF model, for sure. It can be like normally people do it in Excel, but then you are able to do the whole thing in Python. And then you basically just need to run the script over and over and then repeat the analysis for any type of company that you want.
What are the weaknesses of that? So if you have an automated DCF, I think there are weaknesses as well, I guess.
Yeah. So if you would ask me this question, I think 2 years ago, one of the main things, it was that it was very difficult to do it. It was very, that you needed to have a lot of knowledge on Python programming to be able to do that DCF model, let's say. Nowadays, with ChatGPT, for example, you can actually generate Python code to do a DCF model. So you still need to learn a little bit of the basics of Python programming, where to utilize it, and so on. But then ChatGPT can actually generate the code for you. So that's like one of the, I guess, like difficulties that many people had before, but now it's gone.
You're a specialist? I don't know that much about it. If I would ask you, Christian, I want that, DCF automatic model. How long would it take you to generate that?
So I think that's a very good question, but even for me, it will take maybe like a couple of hours to generate that DCF model. But one of the things that I do actually is to teach people how to generate them also in a couple of hours. So even if they don't have any background in Python programming, in just a couple of hours, they can learn how to generate a DCF model if they already know what's a discounted cash flow model.
Can you discuss a few of the parameters that you would inputs to have a great output?
Yeah. So let's say in this same example, whatever you normally put the same inputs that would you put, let's say in Excel, the same inputs, you can put them in Python. But then one of the main benefits is that you really can put them at scale. So like in Excel, for example, after I think 1.4 million rows of data, then you cannot put more data. You need to do like a CSV file or something like that. But then in Python, like that's gone. And then also you can basically get data from other sources very, very quick and very easy in Python. You can get data from, let's say, X, so previously Twitter, or you can generate data from Yahoo Finance, again, in seconds. So that's also a very good benefit of Python.
That's great. I think very valuable information for traders as well.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say that for the last, I think, 2-3 years, I have been doing mainly on Medium, like a blog of trying to tell people, like for traders, on how to utilize Python. And I always get like very good feedback because after they understand how to use it, it's a game changer for them.
Yep. Let's go to the second part. So we have the automation now.
Yeah, definitely. So in the second part, like one of the main things with artificial intelligence is that it's not just about it's not just about automation, but it's also about enhancing the way you analyze financial data. So with artificial intelligence, there's a subset called machine learning. And in there, there's a lot of very advanced algorithms that you can run in order to analyze better a stock. And the way you do it, it's actually very similar to the automation. So you do it in Python as well. And then you run those more fancy, more sophisticated algorithms models in there. And similarly, it's nowadays really easy if you know what to ask to ChatGPT, for example, ChatGPT, then you can generate Python code to do this sort of analysis.
So really that algorithm teaches itself to get better, right? Or not?
So the whole thing with machine learning is that it's basically mimicking human intelligence, but in machines. So the way a machine learning algorithm works is that you give it data. Normally you give it like 80% of data you have like right now. And then the model trained itself on that data and then produce an output. Then you test it on the rest 20% of the data and you try to minimize the error. So you try to basically be as accurate as possible to the existing values. So then whenever you get new data, you are trying basically to predict the future in a very optimized and very accurate way.
Yeah, sounds interesting. And, very, practical then. How would you think about the data? I mean, the more data, the better, I guess. So where would you get it?
Yeah, very good question. So there are two things as well on that. One, the more data, the better, generally speaking, that's for sure. But then you also need quality data. So it's even very similar to a normal financial model, like garbage in, garbage out. So if you had bad inputs, your output will be bad as well. So then the question is how to get good data, right? And then apart from like good data, like good and quality data, so like clean data. So a lot of times, if you go out and about and you try to get data of like any type of stock, then maybe it will be good data, but then it could be non-standardized. You will need to do a lot of data cleaning for it, which, again, Python can help on that. So that's one of the main benefits, that if you know where to get the data, then with Python, you can, let's say, scrap different websites like Twitter, like X, and then get the data in a standardized and a clean way automatically.
I'm thinking of an example now. So if you would go back and you feed the algorithm all the 10Qs and all the filings of the companies which went bankrupt, for example, would that make a good list of stocks to short?
Yeah, that's a very good idea. And even, for example, that one, or even as well, like if you feed all of those data, all of those filings from different companies, then you can try to also fill in other filings and then predict if the company will get that.
What I think
exactly.
And of course, you could do the opposite as well, outperforming companies, and feed that data and see what could be great companies for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Because as humans, like we can do it as well, but one, it will take us a lot of time to do it. And then second, there's this element of human error, right? So if like a computer, like in this case, like an algorithm in Python, will be so much better than an actual person performing this type of analysis.
Yeah. Do you think AI will take over in investing or not?
So I think not. I do think that AI will and is augmenting human intelligence. So it's like enhancing us as investors, as humans, not replacing us. So
it's an average, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And how do you see things changing in future if we talk about AI and investing?
Yeah, so I feel like even right now, it's already changing. Like a lot of different investment banks, a lot of different companies, they're already utilizing artificial intelligence. Again, as I was mentioning, in the two ways, either in automation or in generating better algorithms and better predictions. I feel like in the next 3 to 5 years, it will be even more common that like everyone will be using that. And then in 5 years, I feel like the next wave will be actually just like to get better and faster artificial intelligence via quantum computing.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be like the next wave in 5 years.
Yeah. And now I will talk from my own point of view. I'm an investor. I'm a growth investor for the long term. So I invest in, my service is called Potential Multibaggers. So that already summarizes it. And I think that, I use AI to, scrape data. Well, not really scrape, but, summarize data that I don't have the time to read everything, but, AI can help there. And I think actually the exciting thing for me is that I think that AI will become so mainstream that not doing that, and, I think AI will be great for trading, but I think for investing, it will remain the same because people are afraid of volatility and they sell when the stock drops and then they lose money and they buy back when it's higher. So they lose money again. And that's I think if you look at the 50s, for example, the average holding period was, I think, 8.5 years. Now we're talking about 3-4 months. So I think if I picked Shopify at $7 and a bit. It's in 2017. I still have it in my portfolio. It's more than a 10-bagger, well, depending on the exact price right now. But I think that kind of outperformance over the long term could actually become more an edge because of the short term, AI trading. Do you agree or disagree, or what do you think about this?
No, I definitely agree. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I feel like investors and people that don't use AI on the short term, they'll be in a huge disadvantage. I always say this, like I have a course where I teach advanced financial analysis using ChatGPT and Python. And in that course, we always say at first that it's like whenever Excel came into people's life in finance, there are a lot of people that then didn't want to learn Excel. They didn't want to use Excel, and they prefer to run it in their old ways with piece of paper, calculators, pencils, and so on. And it gets to the point that nowadays, like everyone utilizing Excel, right? So like if you wouldn't be using it, or even something better, for example, you will be in a huge disadvantage if you will try to do all of the analysis in paper and calculators. So I think like now it will be the same thing with artificial intelligence. Like as you mentioned, in 3 to 5 years, if people learn how to use it, then they will be very in a very big disadvantage for sure.
If you take a step back and you look at technological evolution, throughout the years, you see that it goes faster and faster and faster, right? So, the internet, started like somewhere in 1995 or so, but before it became really mainstream, it took like 10 years. I don't think that ChatGPT will take 10 years to go mainstream. It is already quite mainstream right now. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, totally agree. I have seen also one graph that I really put whenever I speak in conferences, that to get, I think, like 1 million users, like the telephone and the Telegram, it took, I think, like 17 years, like 20 years. And then for ChatGPT, it took a couple of weeks to get that enough users. And even like newer things like Facebook, like Instagram, TikTok, it still took a few years to get 1 million users, let's say. And like ChatGPT is really becoming mainstream, as you mentioned. And ChatGPT is not just like AI is not just ChatGPT for sure, but this is one of the very good examples of like these technologies becoming like mainstream and available for everyone.
Okay, I want your prediction. What is the next big thing? I mean, we're still very early in let's call it ChatGPT or LLMs, so large language models. But what do you see will be the first? Maybe first is what will be the evolution in the use of LLMs?
Yep, that's a very good question. So right now in 2024, right now we're in April. In a couple of months, ChatGPT 5 will come out. So that'll be the first big thing, I think, in a couple of months. Then the second thing is like adoption. So a lot of like companies are utilizing any of these like large language models. So it could be Gemini, it could be Microsoft Copilot, it could be ChatGPT. And then all of these companies are like adopting them like this year already. Then the next big thing immediately would be agents. So instead of you needing to, let's say, like type things into code or even type things into ChatGPT, then you can just give an instruction and then the AI agent will perform everything on its own. There are certain elements of like made by OpenAI already that are like custom GPTs that you can build your own already. But again, the agents will be the next big thing. And then looking a bit more forward, as I was mentioning, in 2, 3, maybe 10 years, this one is a bit more off. It will be quantum computing. So like whenever we realize like the potential of quantum computing, we're actually like, utilizing it, whenever it's actually will be very, very useful for everyone.
And how do you see the combination between, I call them AIs, not AI, but because there will be an explosion of AIs in, every industry, very specific, I think. But, how do you see that evolution of the AIs and quantum computing? What will be the next step there?
Yeah, so like the next step I feel is like the combination of both. Because again, like any artificial intelligence tool, you will still need like the company or the people that start that build that artificial intelligence tool, they still need to do what I was mentioning of the training, then testing, and so on. So right now, the companies like OpenAI that have the very best data set and the very best computing power, then they are outperforming all the others. So when we start like intersecting this like quantum computing with artificial intelligence, then this training mechanism will be way better and the outputs will be way better as well.
And, use your imagination. What can you see as an outcome, with the combination of the two?
Yeah, so I feel like there's this concept of like high frequency trading, right? They're like very quick and it requires already a lot of computing power. But then with quantum computing, it will be even faster. So then one of the main things in the combination is like things that right now you are not able to predict, or you are not able to input all the data of, let's say, like of Twitter, like the whole thing in there, and then tell it to like, okay, predict what's the next big stock with all of this data. Right now, it's not possible because of computing power. That would be possible in the future. So that will be one of the most exciting things.
And then maybe, outside of investing, what are, in finance in general, what outcome can you imagine there?
Yeah, so like in finance in general, as well, is a part of like enhancing like humans in their work, right? So with artificial intelligence, then it will be possible to do to spend less time cleaning data, less time on less value-added activities, and then shifting that time to like more value-added activities. At the same time, on those activities, then you can also really perform them in a better way with the help of artificial intelligence.
And let's talk business then. What do you think will be the business outcome, or let's put it different. If you're an entrepreneur right now and you want to start a AI-based company, what would you do, or what direction would you take it?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And I think like right now, it really depends on the use case of the AI tool that you would want to do as an entrepreneur. But the main thing, as I was mentioning, is like you need to have like very, very good data that other people don't have. So that will give you an edge, because the actual algorithms that artificial intelligence can perform, they are like out there. Like there are a lot of like researchers that are like exploring them, like doing them right now, but it's available for everyone. But then the data is the one that is not available for everyone. So if you right now want to start a new company, then the main thing is getting one, the data right, and then second, the right talent to be able to actually utilize that data, which is very difficult these days. Like a lot of people are trying like slowly to get this knowledge on artificial intelligence, but then the people that are getting AI plus finance knowledge, then those will be really like outperforming their peers like in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm thinking about a stock which I also picked in 2019, the Trade Desk. And the Trade Desk, what do? They actually, they are in ad trading, it's called. So it's actually like trading in stocks, but they do that with ad slots. So advertisements are actually traded, in I think it's 100 milliseconds. So that, you're watching, I don't know, a football game, and, that there's an ad there. That ad for you can, well, I should not say can, it will be different for you than for your 55-year-old neighbor, because it's targeted. And that's actually what the Trade Desk does. And why are they the best in what they do? Because they have the best data, much more than, for example, even Google or Meta, Facebook. Why? Because they work directly with Walmart, with Home Depot, and all the big retailers are happy to give their data to the Trade Desk, and even set up their own subsystem in the Trade Desk to monetize their own data as efficient as possible. And I think that shows, and they're not comfortable sharing the same level of data with the big boys, Google, Meta, because they use them for their own purpose. And if you have a customer, you don't want their data to be used by someone else and monetized by someone else. So I think that example shows that, and if you look at the traders, they're growing like weeds. They have been for years already, and that is because of their proprietary data. So I think that's an example of what you're saying, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
that's a very good example. Because as I was mentioning, like, data is like really the core thing.
So maybe if you're an entrepreneur, you should focus on data.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's for everybody listening. That's the great idea right now. Make sure that you have quality data. If you are an individual investor, how would you use AI? So because we have, the huge corporations, the hedge funds, the banks, and they have the best data probably, and the best algorithms, and the best computing power. So how would you try to find an edge against those, big boys?
Yep. So as an individual investor, the main thing that I always recommend, again, it's to use like Python programming, and then to be able to use AI via Python. These days, you don't even need to install anything on your computer to be able to utilize it. So as an individual investor, you can use Google Colab, that is basically like Google Docs, but for programming. So it's on the cloud. You don't need a fancy computer. You don't need to install anything, and then you can run it in there. Then you can go to ChatGPT to generate Python code, as I was mentioning. So as individual investors, that combination of like having your edge, knowing like what you do in terms of like analysis, and then going to ChatGPT to generate the Python code, then go to Google Colab. So then you actually run the Python code in there. That can give you an edge already.
If I understand that correctly, so is it about the best prompts combined with the best data? Is that what you are saying?
Yeah, so I always say that it's not just about writing the best prompt. It's a little bit bigger than that. So you need to understand, yes, how to write a good prompt in another model, but at the same time, you need to also understand, let's say, how to get this Python code, where to put it, like in Google Colab, how computers like really work and interact with each other. So it's a little bit bigger than just getting the right prompt in the right framework, but it does start there, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm a total noob, right? Where do I start? With your course, probably. Yeah. What's the road that I take?
Yeah. So as a beginner, there are two things. I actually always write in my blog on how to start like a completely beginner in this intersection of like Google Colab, Python programming, ChatGPT, and so on. So definitely you can start in there as well. And then, as you're mentioning, I also have some courses that it's like a 4 hours course. So in those 4 hours, I partner up with Nicolas Bouchard, and then we both teach, again, not just how to get the best prompt, but really how computers like are working, how to get Python code, then where to put it. We do exercises and so on. So in those 4 hours, people go from completely beginners without knowing anything at all about AI and about Python to be able to run their own Python code, to be able to generate their own custom GPT, for example. And we are also LLM agnostic as well. So if you are using either Microsoft Copilot, either Gemini, or ChatGPT from OpenAI, this will be the place as well.
And can you share the outcome for, one or two of your customers?
Yeah, definitely. So we have mainly, I think 3 types of people. One is the fractional CFOs. So like also like entrepreneurs that they are learning this for their own businesses. And like their main outcomes is like to be able to run their entire business, but now faster and better. Then there are also the people from large corporations. And in there, also, there are like normally on those like large enterprises, there will be some specialized department on like technology and IT and so on. But with the course, then they are able to really talk the same language with those people afterwards, and then be able to understand how they think and how to run things. And then the third type of, let's say, learner that we normally get is more on the small and medium enterprises, which the main outcome is like they're very busy. They're very busy people. They need to do a lot of things in terms of like in their finance department. But then now utilizing ChatGPT and Python, then they're basically scaling everything. And it's not a small and medium enterprise, but we actually talked also with OpenAI's finance department, and the way they are scaling like their finance department, it's like this, using ChatGPT and Python. Because of the OpenAI was like a known company, but not as known as right now, like 2 years ago. So they're obviously generate like a lot of like new users, new data, and so on. And then that's how they are doing it.
All right. I will go back to investing. and I will make use of you because you're here. For my service, potential multibaggers, I look for companies that I hold for the long term. How would you program something into that? What parameters would you think of, or is that the input that I should give you, or how does it work?
Yeah. So the main thing is what you do right now. You are just trying to mimic that, but then in Python. Again, to do it like either bigger scale or faster. So for that, I will actually ask you more questions about like exactly how do you do it. And then from there, we can start utilizing, let's say, like Python for it.
So, and that's also what you do. So you work with people like that sometimes, or is just the educational part?
Yeah. So right now it's mainly the educational part, but then in those courses we also have people with their own use cases, and again they say like, okay, I'm trying to do like investing this way and so on. Then we ask questions live on those 4 hours. We already help them on a use case. And as well, we're starting some cohorts as well for company specific. So if you are again like maybe like a small or medium enterprise, maybe like a large enterprise, and you would want to upskill your entire like finance department, we also do that. And the main takeaway of that is that apart from the general knowledge on how to utilize and so on, we're very specific to that particular company. And again, we also like ask a lot of questions first in order to like give a lot of value for them.
Yeah, I'm thinking about another stock that I cover, Duolingo. So you may know it. So you can learn a new language. It's gamified. I do it myself. I have almost a 900-day streak. Italian, and they use ChatGPT for conversations. So in Italian, in my case, and they could let go 600 people for that because it was very, very intense work before ChatGPT, and they didn't have to fire anyone actually because they were freelancers and most were not full time, etc., etc. And those people all have enough work, so no one. But I think it shows how incredibly more efficient a company can become. I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg right now.
Definitely, and that's a very good example. I actually make normally 2 examples on big companies. One is Duolingo, because they are one of the like pioneers of utilizing ChatGPT Model 4 like last year to do that. And the second one is IKEA. So IKEA also had a very huge center of people answering questions about their furniture and so on, like online. I think it was like 1,000 people that they were not replaced because a chatbot came in with ChatGPT as well. And then it basically outperformed like how all of these people could answer questions, right?
Oh, that's a great example. Sorry that I interrupt you, but I just saw like 2 or 3 days ago that IKEA lowers the price of hundreds of items they sell. So maybe that's because of that higher efficiency, and it also shows, I think, that that you get an advantage of scale there and efficiency. So I think that if you don't do it in your company, you're basically setting yourself up for failure, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because even just very quickly, the IKEA story. So what they did with those 1,000 people, they teach them how to become interior designers. So then because of that, now they are the same people upskilling them in a different thing, because this first was just answer questions. It was handled by a chatbot. And then they generated a lot more revenue because of that. So back on what you were mentioning, for sure, companies that are not upskilling their people in artificial intelligence, they are going to be left behind. That's like the main key thing. As we were discussing, data and really to have people with this knowledge.
I think that's one of the things that you hear is our jobs. That's such an old discussion because if you look back to the steam engine already, you saw the same discussion. People who were afraid that their jobs would, be taken over. And they were to a certain extent, but there are numerous new jobs created, which people don't see. And right now, people who are 16 right now, I read that when they are 26, it's an estimation that about 35% of the jobs that they will do does not exist yet.
Yeah.
So I think that AI will it will make our society much more efficient, but I think it will also create a whole new creative layer on top of the platform and create things we don't even think about yet.
Definitely. That you put it very good, I think, because in a few years, as you mentioned, it will generate a lot of new jobs that many of them we don't envision right now, because they do not exist, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm old enough to have seen the internet come up, and if you look at the evolution of the internet, it started out slowly. If you look at, you had to dial in through a landline, which and then my mother had to call, and I lost my picture, which had already been loading for 20 minutes or so, and then it took until 2010 before SaaS companies, software as a service, came through the internet, because it was so much faster by then. Nothing compared to now, but fast enough to get those kind of things. So I think we're still quite far, maybe 4 or 5 years. I think it will be faster than the 15 years it took for the internet. But I think we're 4 or 5 years from new applications through ChatGPT and other large language models that we cannot even imagine yet. And I think people will be very creative in finding new applications there.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And one of the things right now, I think one of many people don't know, it's how to get started as well, right? Because there's a lot of information out there. And as you mentioned, it is the next big thing that will start shifting the way we do things entirely. So specifically in our profession, in finance, let's say, that's where we also have another service that we call it AI Finance Club. And basically it's like a group of people upskilling in artificial intelligence specifically for finance. So we have right now around 100 people. That again is a mix between CFOs, FP&A directors, investors, finance professionals that are trying to get to this, getting this edge of how to bring the benefit of AI, not just to themselves, but really to their teams and to their companies as a whole.
So it's spreading like a virus, right?
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you for listening. For more information, please check out multibaggernuggets.com, where you get much more content, both free and paid. For FinChat and Christian's courses, check out the show notes.